5 fitness opinions that might piss you off. Sean here from Fit Fusion Brotherhood. I owned a gym for 10 years. I've coached thousands of clients, and ignorance may be bliss, but truth, hard truths, are ultimately what's going to give you the results that you want. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about 5 opinions that I think people need to hear, even though it might be a little bit uncomfortable, even though you might not want to hear it. These are things that I genuinely believe to be true, and if people applied them, could really help them get the results they want. So let's get into it. The first one here is you do not have a slow metabolism. It's kind of ironic because the people that say they have a slow metabolism ultimately move less than people who have a fast metabolism, and they also have fewer muscle or less muscle mass. And the people who have a fast metabolism tend to move a lot more and have more muscle mass. So truth is, studies show that metabolism doesn't actually decrease until you hit the age of about 65. So if you have a slow metabolism, which may be possible, it's either a health or genetic issue, which is super rare, or it's self-inflicted. And when I say self-inflicted, typically what that means is you've either lost weight way too fast or you've yo-yo dieted way too many times. Every time you lose weight, your metabolic rate slows down, totally normal, but the faster, the more aggressive you do that, the bigger the hit it takes to your metabolism, and then the more yo-yo dieting you do as well, the bigger hit it takes on the metabolism. So the average person does not have a slow metabolism. Ironically, the bigger you are, the faster your metabolism. And also, people who have a slower metabolism in their mind, not actually true, tend to be much more reliant on their metabolism. So for someone who's not very active, their metabolic rate might make up 70 to 80% of their calories burned, whereas someone who's super active and someone might look at them as having a faster metabolism, they might only burn about 60% of their calories from their metabolism. So you can understand right away that it's not your metabolism slowing you down, it's the other things that you're relying on for calories burned that you're probably not leveraging. So having a slow metabolism, for the most part, is a big myth, and if you do have a slow metabolism, it's probably your fault. Number 2, this one's going to be a little bit triggering, but I wholeheartedly believe it to be true, and that's if you're not as fit as you would like to be, it's because you don't prioritize it. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but one of my favorite quotes here is, look at your bank statement, look at your schedule, and I'll show you your priorities. So when you look at those two things, what are the most commonly brought up items in those two things? Now that might be your family, it might be your kids, it might be things that you should prioritize more than your health and fitness, but ultimately if you're not getting the results you want, if you're not putting in the work that you should be putting in, it just means you're not prioritizing it as much as you are prioritizing other things in your life. And once again, I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying there's a reason that you're not getting the results, and usually because it's not a huge priority. The good news is, even if your goal is fat loss, you don't have to spend hours at the gym. Just maintain your diet, which doesn't take a huge time commitment. It's more of just making the right choices and being super consistent with it. But ultimately, if you're not having the results that you want, if you don't look the way you like, you're probably not prioritizing it as much as you are other things. So take that for what it's worth. Number 3, you don't need to eat clean to lose fat. Now you should, that would be perfect world, but there's been so many studies that show people can eat Twinkies and lose fat if you do it the right way. We would not advocate that at all, of course, but we do get a lot of guys come up to us kind of complaining and being really upset that they're eating healthy but not getting results. At the end of the day, really what it comes down to when we're talking about fat loss is energy balance. So you could be eating the healthiest foods in the world. If you're not dropping weight, it just means that your energy balance is not where it needs to be. And you could be eating the crappiest food in the world. If you're not eating a lot of it, you're going to lose body fat. Obviously, we want to try to combine these two things as much as possible. You want that energy balance to be number 1, and you want food quality to be number 2, or 1A, 1B at least. But you can absolutely lose weight by eating junk food, and you can gain weight by eating nothing but healthy food. So a lot of people can get discouraged, and this is when the whole metabolism talk kind of starts, when people start exercising and they're eating quote-unquote healthy, but not getting results. So you can absolutely lose fat by not necessarily eating clean, even though you shouldn't. Number 4, genetics matter. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. So what I mean by this is we get a lot of guys come up to us and they'll show us a picture, maybe like a celebrity, a friend, an athlete, and they say, this is the kind of physique I want. The problem is we all have individual variability when it comes to genetics. So you're going to have certain strengths and weaknesses. And unless it's the exact same as the person that you're showing, it's not going to be likely that you're going to reach that same type of result. Now, The good news is 99% of us are nowhere near our genetic potential. So what you want to do is you want to be able to identify what some of those strengths in your genetics are and what some of those weaknesses are. And then obviously once you identify those strengths, you want to double down on those. Okay, so yes, you might like the way someone else looks, but if your genetics don't support that, not only are you never going to look that way, but you're going to drive yourself crazy and waste a ton of time and energy trying to really focus that on something that is never going to happen. So understand that genetics do matter. Understand that you have very unique genetics, even though it might not be the same as someone else's. You do have your strengths. So lean into those strengths and try not to compare yourself to anyone else, because that is a losing battle and something that's going to be discouraging and very likely to kind of throw you off of your fitness journey, which we don't want, of course. And then the last one here, perfect form is overrated. Now, don't get me wrong, it's always good to try to prioritize good form as much as possible. And the one caveat I have here is if your form is increasing your risk for injury, that's a problem. But if it's not increasing your risk for injury, yes, it would be ideal to have quote unquote perfect form, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. Now, obviously now in 2026, science-based lifting is such a huge thing, and you see all these gym bros talking about 1 or 2 degrees of a different exercise can change the entire trajectory of your results, and that's just not necessarily true. So you're going to see a lot of guys at the gym that show up every single day and train intensely, and their form's kind of sketch, and they're in amazing shape. And then you're going to see other guys that don't show up very often, and their form might be perfect, but they're not in good shape. So yes, you should aim to have good form, but consistency and intensity beats perfect form all day, every day. If that's your biggest problem, then you're doing something right, but that should be very low on your list of things that you should be stressed out about if your goal is to drop body fat or even to build muscle or even to get healthy. So as long as you're not at risk for injury, yes, worry about form, but don't super stress out about it because it's massively overrated. So those are 5 of my controversial opinions that probably piss some people off, but I genuinely believe them to be true. So let me know which ones you disagree with the most. Let me know if you have any hot takes that I may or may not disagree with or agree with as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do enjoy videos like this, do us a huge favor, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.